Good morning. Well, it's November the 11th, 2016. Happy birthday, Aunt Myrna, and happy birthday, Aunt Reenie. Um, Short and sweet intro today. My TV's on. Yes, we're up early again. We had a good sleep last night. Yeah, or not last night. The night before, we had 3 fire alarms here, and getting up and going out 3 times. No one in the building really got any sleep, so I wasn't feeling well too, so get a coffee, tea, hot chocolate, pop, whatever you like. Sit back, relax. We're going to do our talk. Okay, today is Remembrance Day. Do we really need to get out and celebrate? Well, I guess we're not really celebrating. But, there's always these posts on Remembrance Day. Oh, I don't wear a poppy because it's all about celebrating war. Well, it isn't about celebrating war. What it was is celebrating people and remembering people that went out and fought for what they believed in. People, it was a different time. Today, I don't know how many people would actually get out and do that. I would like to think that a lot would. But it was protecting what we had, and we were tied with Britain at that time. And, we were in the war before the States was. And, the States seems to think that, oh, they came in and won the war, and, you can get into those arguments too, and I won't dispute them. What I am saying is people need to get out and remember those who fought for this country. We're not saying that you believe that war is right or war is wrong or whatever. But people who fought for this country and our way of life. We seem to forget that people are out there doing whatever they want every single day. And the reason for that is what they call the forgotten generation. These are people who, when Germany invaded Poland and Britain was called to war, they went with them. Now, you could say, well, political times have changed. We should just live and let live. Let's just celebrate and have another day off. Does it take, half an hour each year to remember the people who fought and did a lot for our society? We're not saying that these people want more war. In fact, most legions or legionnaires I'm sorry, I don't sure what Army, Air Force, what they call their people, their members. But I think we have to get out and ensure that people don't forget. Because when people forget, that is when history repeats itself. And I think we could now be in danger of having things repeat themselves. And I don't think we really need that. Now, wearing a poppy, I've had a couple this year and I've lost them or they've fallen off. But, get out there, go to your local cenotaph, go and show the people who stood for Canada and stood for all our society and what we believe in. Now, you could really get into the whole argument. Now, we can sort of say, well, we don't fight wars anymore. Canada's a peacekeeping nation. Well, it's still our sons and our daughters that get out there and who say, I'm for keeping the peace. That's who else we're remembering. We're not remembering the warmongers out there, which a lot of people seem to think we are. You can see posts on this, but November the 11th at 11 o'clock is when the armistice ending the First World War was signed. We need to ensure that we can get out there and that we can show our support. You stand there for half an hour. Then you can go enjoy the rest of your weekend. You have a long weekend. But you know what? I think people need to remember. This year, I have seen a lot more commercials from the, who do you call it? The Legions or the Government of Canada saying we should get out there and we should remember. If we don't, the world is such a volatile place that, a lot of people might say, well, let's just go in and, if I can quote someone who just ran in an election, oh, well, let's just bomb them. You shouldn't have to bomb people. I think we need to get past that. But yet, at the time, that was the only situation. Now, I don't think countries like to send their sons or their daughters into battle. It's not a favorite pastime. But when we had to do it, when there was no other solution, we went and we answered the call. So, people say, well, why can they do it in the middle of July? That's not the point. The point is that these people fought for our country, defended our country, and we need to get out and remember them. Sorry, I have. There's a local cenotaph. There's the cenotaph down at Maine and Hastings, I believe it is. There's one just over here at Metrotown. There are cenotaphs all over. And today at 11 o'clock, there will be a march past of veterans, and we should support. There are an awful lot of Canadian veterans out there who do a hell of a lot of good with peacekeeping and everything. We need to show our support. They're the ones that answer the call of duty. We all pretty well have war heroes in our family. I know for a fact on my mother's side there was an Uncle Robert or an Uncle Bob, and he ran a frigate or a destroyer and was awarded the Distinguished Navy Cross. So I never really met the man. He was sort of passed on before or just after I came. And you've got to think how we live daily and how much we enjoy, and getting up, being able to do whatever we want. We're not sort of sitting here saying, oh well, I don't know if we're going to be bombed today. Or and a lot of these people, and not only them but their families, put an awful lot of work into answering the call. They feel it's something they need to do. And we need to ensure that we show our support. There's nothing wrong with walking up to a lady or a man who's wearing the Legion uniform and saying thank you. It's not saying, oh yes, you love war, but we are definitely in another era, and we need to ensure that we don't repeat. And the only way that we are going to ensure that we don't repeat is coming back and saying, you know what? I'm not going to let it happen again. But if we were given the exact same circumstances, would we go in and do what we have to do? I don't know if a lot of people would. We need to ensure that we need to be able to remember, and so that we can fight for the peace. And fight for the peace may be trying to do everything else. And not just being the bully, oh yes, I have all this, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. That is not a true Canadian. But I think we've got to show our support for the true Canadians who answered the call and who protected Canada. There's also a program of the Legion, I believe it's the Legion, where every grave got a poppy placed on it this year. Every veteran who died in an armed conflict got a poppy put on their grave. And I think everyone needs to get off their ass and go down. I don't care if it's pouring with rain and oh, you get wet. You need to take that moment. Oh, well, I wanted to sleep in. I wanted to take a long weekend. Come on, guys. You've got Valentine's Day weekend, and you've got Christmas, you've got Boxing Day, New Year's. One day out of the year, November the 11th at 11 o'clock, at any cenotaph, go and show your support for our veterans. Something to think about. Okay. Yesterday afternoon, there was a robbery attempt at the Canadian Tire at Grandview Highway, close to Grandview and Rupert, actually my old stomping grounds. And the perpetrator was stopped, a store employee was stabbed, a police officer was stabbed multiple times. And I did many years of work with 7-Eleven. And during the whole time, the constant message that was beat into our brains was that don't go and fight. Don't argue with the people. If they want the money, just give them the money. If you're a store of that size, you are protected with insurance. People, if they're that desperate for money, will do anything for it. Whether it's merchandise they want to sell. So I really have to say, and right now we don't know all the facts, but if someone put up their life to try to stop them, it's not worth it. Your life is more important. Now, this goes to anyone who works retail. And the Canadian Tire was just happened to be hit. There was a save-on in that locality. There was a save-on when I worked up at Highgate, where we were robbed there. And yes, it does get strange. And yes, you keep looking over your shoulder, trying to make sure. But you have one job during an armed robbery, and that is to get out alive. And you want to protect your livelihood. But that's protecting you. That's not protecting a sweater or a jacket or a flashlight or a hunting knife or whatever. We need to be able to just say, hey, step away. Let them take it. And I can tell you now, any place that will not allow you to give them the money is not a place you want to work at. If they expect you to lay down your life for a couple of $100, then is that really where you want to work? I can tell you, I trained and I worked for 7-Eleven for many years. I worked at LensCrafters. I worked at Save On Foods. Hand it over. Getting you out of that situation alive is the important thing. And don't sit there and worry about things. But people seem to think, I have to, I'm going to get fired if I lose the money. And you know what? They're just going to take it out of my paycheck. First of all, that's illegal. Second of all, if they're recuperating the money by taking it out of your paycheck, I can tell you they're also recuperating it from insurance. And I know for a fact that 7-Eleven, you were expected just to hand it over. Now, a little aside here, a little kind of fun aside, was when I first went through training with 7-Eleven, we were always taught, I have a GI, that if we had a robbery, it was always to treat it like a robbery. And just in my mind, I can picture this. Would you like a bag? And thank you, and please come again. But you want to get the perpetrator out of your store. Don't do anything stupid. Don't say, oh, someone's going to come in right away, if you know that someone's not going to come in. You've got to let people know that there's could be someone in the back room. Because if the person comes out and the element of surprise, people are going to end up shooting and there's going to be a whole bunch of bloodbath. As today, there was one staff member who was stabbed, and there was a police officer who was stabbed. And people all say, well, yeah, police and this, police and that. But it's funny, we always expect the police to give their all. And, oh, well, it's just the price of being a police officer. Well, you know what? That's ridiculous. It isn't the price of being a police officer. I have problems with all those shows that, show the stupidest robbers or whatever, because they kind of make it look like it's a event that you can laugh it off. And I don't think it needs to be laughed off. I think every person that works with money has to be made aware that it's okay to give the money. Don't go saying, oh, well, I'm going to protect it. I'm going to protect everything. Because what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up paying with your life. And it's not worth it, people. If someone comes in, follow what they say. If they say open up your cash register, just do it with wide movements. Don't do it at quick little intervals. Another step that you really should do is know how to open up your cash register. Now, years ago, most cash registers were all the same. You pressed no sale, and your cash drawer would open up. But now there's so many new tills and new models, and everyone's got their own different till, that it's hard to know. So make sure you know how to open up the till. And don't try to be a hero. You're just going to end up walking away. Dead. There was a 7-Eleven that one of my training stores where I would go and train would be there, and this person was working the graveyard shift, and the person didn't do something quick enough for the armed robber, and this person ended up being stabbed, and he passed away a few times, but he came back and fought for his life. But, you don't know how people are going to react. And something, feeling, oh, well, the company is really going to reward me because I put my life on the line for the money. They could probably care less. We really need to train our people, especially young people nowadays, that are desensitized to robbery and violence. We hear shootings, and it's kind of like, oh, well, a shooting or a stabbing or whatever is more or less like a badge of honor. It just shows that you're being an idiot. Every business has robbery insurance. Every company has an anti-robbery prevention program. and it's up to you to follow these. And if you don't, and if you put your life on the line, you should be fired. You know what? It's something to think about. Okay, there's a number of people who, in downtown Vancouver yesterday, who joined in an anti-Trump rally. Well, I think as Canadians, we really have to take ownership and just not be a patsy of the U.S. government to come in. I think, the first step, which I have said before on this blog, is that we should not invite Donald Trump to speak to our House of Commons. Now, there's already a conservative MP that is calling on that, oh yes, we should all just do this and have Donald Trump come and, run the Canadian government system and how much better it would all be. Well, I'm sorry. First of all, the Americans voted you in. We didn't. And I think the conservatives here, if they want to run someone on that platform, they can go ahead. But not bring someone from the States. The Liberals tried that. And for 8 years, I think it was 8 years, they were, the third party. They had a very few seats. They went from leader of the opposition down to nothing. So I think we really have to get on the ball, and we have to send an email to our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, saying that we should not have Donald Trump come speak to the House of Commons. Now, I think it's usually the first official international visit by a president to come to speak either to the House of Commons or to the joint House and Senate. But you know what? I don't think we need it. He's campaigned on racism. He's campaigned on, well, he didn't really campaign, but it was brought up that his actions towards women were not acceptable. So Justin Trudeau has already congratulated him. And I don't think we should go any further. I think that maybe it's time Canada stood on its own 2 feet. The old joke that, oh well, Canadians, the only reason they're big and strong is because the U.S. is right there. But you know what? Maybe we do need to be on our own. I don't think we should just sit there and say, okay, well, we'll just do whatever you want, Donald, because you're the big, you're our older cousin, and you know what's best. He doesn't know what's best. And we're going to have to wait to see what happens. But right now, and what he said to Mexicans, and that he's going to deport them, that he's going to put his rival into jail, I don't think we really want him in Canada. And so I suggest that you write or email our Prime Minister. And if you go to the site at pm.gc.ca, you will find a form. You can write him from there, and it will go directly to him. I think we've got to let him know that just because he's President of the United States, he doesn't represent us, and he may call himself leader of the free world, but I didn't vote for him. He has no right representing me. You know, it's time Canada took a stand, and I think we can do a hell of a lot better than Donald Trump. Just something to think about. I'll leave the address up for a couple of seconds after this, and maybe for a minute. But, yeah, just go to the site, write a brief note saying that you're not interested in having him here. That, not everyone will bow down to the almighty Donald Trump. Something to think about.